Every time I have interactions with men, I am just more and more appalled and disgusted by men and the behavior of men towards women. Like, dating in my early 20s, men actually had respect for women, relatively. You at least felt like a human being around them. You know, you at least felt like they saw you as a human and not just an object. But the increase in all of these red pill podcasts and women hating behavior on the internet has literally poisoned the minds of men.
Blah, 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 blah.
And here we have the inevitable face of the modern woman as she blames the Red Pill podcast bros for the fact that she made terrible life decisions. Woman, has it ever occurred to you that the reason why you were getting this kind of attention back in your 20s was because you were in your 20s and at peak market value? Well, of course not. It's the men's fault that this is happening. And it's kind of funny how you're saying that all of this Red Pill podcast stuff is to blame for all of the problems in society, even though the majority of us are just pointing out your blatant hypocrisy. You're constantly bashing men left and right, and the men just had enough of it and have decided to join in on the fun. With better results, I might add. If you want to talk about poisoning the well, we can go ahead and go there. Modern women have poisoned the well by saying that any man who's a proud member of the illustrious bottom 95% club is not worth her time and is probably guilty of multiple violent felonies. Meanwhile, we got women over 30 saying that men need to step up to be with her, even though she has a terrible and insufferable attitude thanks to the poor life decisions that she made back when she was in her 20s, and yet that's somehow our fault as well. So who's poisoning who there, sister?
And it was to the point that I just stopped dating entirely for the last 6 months or so. I've been trying to give dating a chance again lately. I've even been trying to date guys who are not, my typical type. But yeah, even dating guys who are not my typical type has not fixed the issue. In fact, actually, it's worse. What the fuck is a girl to do? Give up? I always have dated guys who were 10, 15 years older than me, because I've been dating guys around my age lately, and that shit, girl, no.
That's not my problem. It's yours.
Woman, you're just embarrassing yourself now. What you say when you're dating men that aren't your type is that you're dating men that you don't find attractive because those are the only men who are willing to give you the time of day and you can't respect them, so you're going to take anything that they say out of context and use it against them and then complain how it's their fault that you can't get a date, even though the odds are most certainly not in your favor. Most self-respecting men would feel more comfortable betting their entire life savings for the T-1000 to defeat the T-800 in Terminator 2. At least that kind of a wager would be mildly engaging, as opposed to taking you out on a date. You're over the age of 30. You already have a bunch of expectations and a bunch of demands and a massive list of requirements for any man who enters your life, with the obvious exception being the men that are quote-unquote your type. Which just means that you have been ignoring a majority of the men out there, and now you're turning around and expecting us to welcome you with open arms? It doesn't work that way, sister. We've got better things to do with our time and money than spending it on a rotten bill of damaged goods.
Good, but I would say it's horrible yet terrible. Ugly yet disgusting. You suck.
I have always felt like the man has to love the woman more for a relationship to work, because it's just harder for men to be loyal and faithful and committed for the long term. That's racist! When a woman loves a man, it just comes naturally to be loyal and faithful and committed. But it's just not in male nature to be like that. Like, men can supposedly love a woman and still not be faithful to her. So yeah, he has to love her more. It has to be at a higher degree. Simply just based on male nature for him to stay loyal, faithful, committed for the long term.
You need to face the fact. You're a racist. A racist. You, not me. I'm not the racist.
Okay, woman, if you're saying that a man needs to love you more in order to prove his loyalty to you, then what exactly are you doing? Or better yet, what are you allowed to get away with? You're the one that's supposed to be keeping score here, so do you actually have the figures in your head on how you actually determine how this is supposed to work? Because from the looks of it, a man could bend over backwards for you, but apparently he's still not doing enough. Now, if you're going after the top 5% of men, yeah, they're not going to be loyal to you, but that's because they don't have to. They have significantly more options than you, and if you don't like it, then he'll just move on to the next chick. He's not interested in any form of a long-term relationship, let alone loving you. And I kind of take umbrage with this notion that no man is capable of being loyal, when most self-respecting men hold the virtue of loyalty sacred. If you ask a man who's had his loyalty betrayed, he will have some stories for you because it changes him forever. But I guess none of those don't count because your loyalty has always been for sale.
We do have this money.
God, please send me a man I can spoil before I lose it. I am going to geek out sci-fi style, grill him a juicy steak, and tease him in bed until he pins me down. He'll have to handle my clingy little cuddle chops, though. Could you tame this mess?
No. No, man. Shit, no, man. I believe you get your ass kicked saying something like that, man.
Woman, your ability to cook a steak is a lot like your personality. You're burnt up and worthless on the outside and cold and dead on the inside, so I think I'm gonna take a hard pass. Besides, I got bigger problems.
And now, a special television event.
God, I don't know how I keep getting into these messes. You'd think that with my extensive experiences tracking down intergalactic space petty criminals that I would have learned a thing or two. But you don't get into intergalactic bounty hunting if you're looking for an education. It just doesn't work that way. If you want an education, you become a fry cook. I'm not kidding when I say those guys are the premier philosophers of Sector Sigma. To be honest, I just didn't have the jacket for it, and those hairnets always made my head itch. So it wasn't going to work out in that regard. I had just received word of one of my biggest bounties yet, Blugsky Skaktoriak, a criminal mastermind who had the counterfeit fake mustache market cornered. Now I know it seems kind of silly to think that this man could cause so much chaos in Sector Sigma. I mean, how much trouble could a guy really get into when he's selling fake aftermarket costume mustaches? Well, let me tell you, not so much as you can imagine, but far more than you think. At least enough to land him a hefty bounty of 632 intergalactic space bucks. But the money wasn't the issue here. It was out of respect for the fake mustache community, and this man had no business selling fake knockoffs of fake mustaches. Now this guy was moonlighting as a machinist for a pizza topping factory as a cover for his little crime syndicate. And he was so good at manufacturing pizza toppings that he was the employee of the month at least twice in a single month. And those kinds of accolades are front page news in Sector Sigma. Yeah, we have more slow news days than you think out here. So naturally, I tracked this monster down to deliver my own brand of space justice. The factory managers had recently promoted him to the fake cheese product topping department. I saw him there, randomly pushing buttons and whistling a jolly tune as he turned around with an evil smile on his face. Something was off, but I couldn't put my finger on it. But that's when I caught a whiff of the cheese and everything fell into place like a child's 5-piece jigsaw puzzle. And as he whistled for his supervisor, I realized it was a setup. The footsteps echoed past the pepperoni processor, and there he was, Cody. Cody recently took a job at this factory after convincing the company to process their imitation cheese product with wombat milk, and profits went up by about 3%. And all he wanted was a cover job to lure me out to distribute his own form of payback. Cody said that if I agreed to deliver 9 freighters worth of his mysteriously obtained pizza cheese, then he'd be willing to let bygones be bygones and let me free of the contract that he signed in my name. He then threatened to make me sleep with the fishes, which is his dumbass way of saying that he was going to lock me in the anchovy warehouse for a few weeks to make me think about what I've done, even though I had no idea what I did in the first place. Before I could leave, a stealthy figure crept up behind me and shackled me with a pair of thumb cuffs. And as I turned around, there she was, Katie, Cody's mysterious partner in crime. I was just annoyed at this point and demanded that she and her boyfriend let me go. And then she angrily reminded me that he wasn't her boyfriend. And then when I asked her to expand on that statement, she said it was obvious what they were and to just shut up already. This left me more confused than anything else, but that didn't stop me from knowing that I was in trouble, and I knew it. Now, I don't know if it was blind luck, karma, or the fact that I have friends everywhere I go, but the imitation cheese food product machine started to creak and rumble, and as it violently shook, the thing exploded to reveal one of the best pals a guy could ever ask for, MVS Nitro, Robot Gunslinger. Let me tell you something about this guy. He was originally designed for an efficient filing of intergalactic space accounts receivable paperwork. He practically revolutionized the process within a week of being introduced into the bureaucratic nightmare and ended up rubbing a lot of potential pensioners the wrong way. Now, this guy was the latest and greatest in space technology, so they couldn't just deactivate him without causing a ruckus. So they did the next best thing. They forced mandatory lunch breaks on him. And it was during these breaks that he started to dabble in watching Earth movies. He watched all of the classics: RoboCop, A Fistful of Dollars, Tommy Boy, and then it dawned upon him that his eternal life was meant for so much more than just filing paperwork. He stormed out of the break room and used his energy pulse manifestation powers to create a couple of badass 6-gun particle blasters and immediately vaporized almost 3 centuries worth of files and flew off into the vacuum of space, drifting from planet to planet in search of the ultimate one-liner. He's dueled with intergalactic cattle barons, liberated entire colonies from the clutches of space railroad tycoons, and is responsible for some of the most awesome saloon fights in all of Sector Sigma. And the funny thing is, he doesn't even start them half the time. He just walks in, sits down, and then some heavyset blowhard comes up to him and tries to punch him. But if there's one thing you don't do, it's punch a man who's made of a vibranium exoskeleton and expect not to break your own hand. But once you raise your hand against a guy like MVS Nitro, you can expect 2 things: broken fists and an assload of broken windows. Now, contrary to popular belief, this man was not a bounty hunter, but he didn't need to be. This man wasn't in it for the money. He was in it for justice, the drifting, and to knock down evil paper pushers a peg or two. And that was something I could get behind. He climbed out of the cheese processor and Cody knew that he was knee-deep in cow shit. MVS Nitro grabbed a handful of the cheese and took a bite and then immediately spit it out. If there was one thing this robot drifter couldn't stand, it was the fake cheese. And Cody had that in spades. He took his stance with his hand hovering over his particle revolver, and with a quick motion he drew and fanned the hammer so quick that it would make Clint Eastwood himself take a few notes. He fired a stream of particle blasts into the processor, turning it into a molten mess of stringy cheese and cheap steel. And with the twirl of his revolver, it landed back in his holster and he stared Cody down. This was a guy that not only destroyed a lucrative piece of Cody's cheese syndicate, but also had him on the hook for letting an expensive piece of machinery break down while he was on the clock, which all but guaranteed his termination of employment at the factory. Now, MVS Nitro could have easily turned Cody into intergalactic buzzard meat, but the humiliation of being fired from a job before he completed his unionization probationary period was more than enough humiliation. Cody threw down his clipboard and motioned to Katie to unlock my thumb cuffs, and they wandered off towards the office to collect their last paycheck and to lick their wounds. MVS Nitro gave one look at me and offered to buy me a whiskey. We sat at the bar of a saloon in a dusty old space town as he threw down a single coin and we just drank in silence like a couple of buddies. But the fun did not stop there, as if right on cue some overweight cowboy wannabe tried to pick a fight with us. MVS Nitro clenched his fist, told the guy to be careful of what he wished for, and we locked eyes, shared a grin, and the next thing you know, we're in the middle of one of the biggest bar brawls in the history of Sector Sigma. We were throwing punches, slamming down bar stools, and throwing out as many scumbags out of any window we could find. And once the fight ended, he lit up a cigar, tipped his cap to me, and I knew I had a bro for life. Because sometimes all you need in life is a cowboy robot drifter to have your back through thick and thin. And that's something that Cody could never take away from us, because nobody would have the back of a jagoff like that. This thrilling installment of the Cody's Milk Saga was brought to you by MVS Nitro, a top-tier member of the Bounty Board over on Patreon. You, sir, are not only a certified gent, but also a verified gentleman in every sense of the word, and it was an absolute pleasure and a privilege to make this story for you. I'm sincerely grateful for your generosity, and thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to create a story for you. And I also want to give some heartfelt recognition to all of the members of the Bounty Board for their continued support of my work. Gentlemen and gents, it is absolutely wonderful that you give me the opportunity to create stories just like this, and it really does bring a tear to this bounty hunter's eye to know that you want to support my work, so thank you a million times over. All hail! And if you want to become a member of the Cody's Milk Saga, check out the Bounty Board over on Patreon, where top-tier members can become a character in this series of stories. But I also have other tiers starting at $5 a month if you want to support the channel, so I'll leave the link in the pinned comment down below for you. And there's always more than one way to support this channel. If you enjoy segments like this, then hit that like button, leave some comments, and be sure to share this video. And if you found yourself enjoying these stories, then I hope I've earned your subscription today. My personal thanks goes out to all of you who are supporting this channel in the many ways that you do. So thank you once again, gentlemen and gents.
You're a single woman, listen up because I'm about to spill some tea. The way to make a guy fall for you really, really fast in the beginning stages of dating is way more simple than we realize. And I'm gonna give you the step-by-step formula. You need to understand that men fall for women that make them feel seen and valued and needed. And what I see with a lot of my clients and friends is that women nowadays have become so independent and self-sufficient that we forget how to make a man feel needed.
Wrong! I hate to break it to you, sister, but that's just patently false. It's not that modern women have forgotten how to make men feel needed, it's that they balk at the idea that a man needs anything from a woman at all. Let's just think about this for a second. If a man wants some recognition, or if he even wants a hug or a home-cooked meal every once in a while, you immediately accuse him of being insecure and saying that he wants princess treatment. You then start a 2-minute-long rant about how all men are toxic narcissists because he had the audacity to actually want something from you. You couldn't care less about a man's needs because, well, in your eyes, men exist to serve you and nothing else. Meanwhile, you have a massive laundry list of demands that any man must meet, and if he falters at anything less than 110%, then he doesn't care about you, and therefore he needs to be broken up with, divorced, and have his life shamed on TikTok for your own amusement. Now, if I did convey my wants to you, I would want you to shut up, but we both know that's impossible, so please continue with the cringe.
But it's really so easy and simple. So this is what you're gonna do. You wanna start by giving him really simple tasks to complete. Let me give you some examples. Whenever you're getting ready, ask him what outfit he likes better or what shirt he likes better. Do you like my hair down or up? Send him some photos. That's like such an easy way to flirt, and they love that shit. Even if you already know which outfit you're gonna wear, like giving them a sense that they can kind of tell you their opinion or tell you like what they would want, it really boosts his ego, trust me on that one.
It's a trap. Well, of course, it's probably a trap.
Woman, the more you talk, the deeper you're digging yourself into the grave of embarrassment. Now, yes, men do like having tasks to accomplish, but you're forgetting a key thing. When you're asking for a man's input, it's because you should care about what he has to say. Now, if you're asking him how you'd like to wear your hair or what dress you should wear for your date night, but you've already made the decision, then all you're doing is being condescending and insulting that man's intelligence. Now, what you're proposing is a spousal Kobayashi Maru. You're forcing him into a no-win scenario so that no matter how he answers, you will always have the moral high ground and be pissed off at him for petty reasons. And when you put all of that together with a how do you do, all you're showing is that you know next to nothing about men and that being condescending and rude to them is the best way to make them fall in love with you. And the best part of all of this is that men are not that complicated, and yet you say that they're simple. And no, sister, they are most certainly not the same thing.
Now, if he's like, oh, how's your day going? How was your day today? Then you can tell him like, oh, I've had a really rough day. It would really make me so happy if you made me a cup of tea or something like that. You want to think of like little tiny missions or little tiny tasks that you really would love and appreciate and would make me so happy. And always lead with how you want to feel if you would have that little tiny mission or problem solved by him, and then give him the key to do it. Does that make sense? Let me know if you guys want more examples because I have so many.
No.
Woman, there's a reason why you're a single life failure, and that is because you do not appreciate the things that men do for you. You're just talking about emotional manipulation right now. Even when you are talking about trying to make a man fall in love with you, it's all hinged on this idea of all the different ways that he can serve you, and that's just not how it works. And when you're giving all of these degrading and menial tasks to a man, you're not really offering anything in return at all. It's about how he can make make you feel and not what you're willing to do for him in return. It's called a relationship for a reason. Now I get it, you got all of these ideas from binge watching a whole bunch of romantic comedies as you sat alone in your overpriced apartment last night and you cried about how you didn't have a man in your life, but come on, lady, men are not that complicated. If you show him some appreciation for the things that he does for you, he's going to want to do things for you, but unfortunately, you're incapable of actually figuring that part out, which makes you embarrassingly simple.
See you tonight when I go to bed in my head movies.
If you don't know, I left my husband a year ago, and I've been wanting to come on here and give a life update of a year from now and what my life looks like. And I've been hoping that I would be able to come on here and tell you guys that life is just fucking great. But it's not. It's still really hard. I wanted to have my shit more together. I know that this isn't the truth, but I just feel like I'm failing so much as a mom.
No one makes friends with a failure. Okay? You understand?
I don't know what's worse, the fact that you're trying to invoke sympathy because you left your husband a year ago, or the fact that you think people care about how you screwed up your life. I mean, woman, you brought all of this on yourself. There's no sense in sugarcoating it. And there's no real need to go into details. We've heard this story a million times in the past. You left your husband because you thought you could do better, and here you sit a year later realizing that you've just made things worse for yourself, but you can't bring yourself to admit it, so you're just looking for pity in the comments section. But I hate to break it to you, sister, I have significantly more pity for the dude who sells rusty nails at a hyperinflated price than I do for you and your screw-ups. This notion that you should leave your husband for petty reasons is incredibly destructive and irresponsible. I mean, what in the hell did you think was gonna happen? You were gonna leave your husband and then all of a sudden a whole bunch of dudes are gonna line up to deal with you and your damaged goods? I mean, woman, you're older than me. You should know that life doesn't work out that way. Well, maybe I'm giving you too much credit. I'm sorry about that.
I know that that's not the truth, you know? But life is so fucking hard. I just got to spend 11 and a half hours with my baby, and it was just the most sweetest time. I hate that I feel this way, but I miss my mom so much. I miss my baby. Life is not where I wanted to be a year later.
You have failed conclusively. It's over. And there is nothing that you can do here in this room that can turn that around.
Okay, hold up just a second. You got to spend 11 and a half hours with your child? Oh man, that must mean you really done screwed up there, sister. Considering that the American divorce court system favors the mother like 99.9% of the time, if you only have limited custody of the child for like 11 and a half hours, then I hate to wonder what that divorce proceeding must have been like. I mean, what in the hell were you expecting, woman? Did you honestly think you were going to be showered with cash and prizes for completely destroying your husband? Well, actually, now that I think about it, you probably did. But life has a way of just pulling the rug from under you, and you're learning that the hard way. You thought that you were going to divorce your husband and walk out and prove to the world that you're a boss bae, yas queen, single mother who don't need no man, and here you are crying in your car about how you completely screwed up your life, and you want us to have sympathy for you? Oh, sorry, sister. We're fresh out. It's far too valuable to be wasted on the likes of you. And that's gonna do it for today's video, gentlemen and gents. And as always, if you find that my particular brand of comedy is bringing you to the brink of laughter, then why don't you scroll on down and click that like and subscribe button, ring the notification bell, leave a couple of comments, and make sure to share this video so we can give the good old-fashioned middle finger to the YouTube algorithm. Thank you so much for checking out the new video, gentlemen and gents, and until next time, peace out, homies.